Los Angeles Times greeting us with a freakout number 6,795, saying if Newsom is recalled, the entire nation should worry, not just California. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they aren't going to tell us any factual reason as to why. Now, for those of you who are wondering, why am I paying so much attention to this? Well, mainly because Joe Biden has all the destructive stupidity of fucking Dee Dee from Dexter's Lab, and secondly, it is a good case study of how the Democratic machine panics, which is always thoroughly amusing, if a bit frustrating, seeing as it is nothing but rhetorical factless diarrhea. But alarm bells are ringing, saying if the recall is successful, Newsom will be replaced by a Trump toady. Yes, very classy, LA Times. Because it would be so horrible if a guy who created California into dust, who shut down schools and sent his own kids to a private school, a man who at the height of the pandemic, whilst everything was closed down, had a private maskless dinner at a restaurant with a big pharma lobbyist and pals that cost $15,000, with a $12,000 wine bill, is replaced by a Trump-like guy. Remember Trump, who gave the US energy independence, massive job growth, rising wages, and a safer world? You know, all the things that California doesn't fucking have. If Newsom is ejected, Republicans everywhere will be even more emboldened as they mobilize to recapture Congress next year and the presidency in 2024. You must be kidding me. I like being the bearer of good news, so here's some breaking news for you dim-witted progressives. Republicans can do absolutely nothing, and that will still happen regardless. Look at you. This restaurant scandal, Pelosi at the hairdressers, Cuomo's sexual escapades in the nursing home debacle, the autonomous zones, Lori Lightfoot only wanting to talk to non-white press people whilst the fish-looking bitch is married to a white woman, de Blasio mandating vaccines for all federal workers, Illinois' fat bastard of a governor wanting to mask toddlers, that's not a joke by the way, look at this, and that's not even mentioning the slow-witted bellend currently in the White House. None of that even involves Republicans. That's just the shit Democrats do when in power. But you think Newsom is gonna light the spark? Democratic politicians don't have any moral consistency. These people are nothing but a bunch of power-hungry, hypocritical sociopaths. But for the Democrats, California is the crown jewel of leftism. It has symbolism. For everyone else with rational objectivity, it's a failed shitshow of a state with a massive homeless crisis, rising crime, drug abuse, cost of living, and poor schools. Not to mention, the state is hemorrhaging people who leave the golden state for red ones, because the only thing golden in the state is the streams of urine everywhere emanating from homeless transients. Yes, I am quite the wordsmith. Though Democrats in California outnumber Republicans 2-1, polls show Republicans are far more enthusiastic about voting in the recall. Biden plans to visit the state sometime after Labor Day to campaign for Newsom. Let me get this straight, LA Times, the peddlers of profound stupidity. You think a visit from the worst president ever, the guy leaking approval faster than AOC does brain cells, after multiple failures, seemingly every damn day, is somehow going to help the guy facing a recall? You ever find yourself feeling like you're living in a terrible story, shouting this makes no sense, who writes this shit? Not to mention, if you're outnumbering Republicans 2-1, who you lot have said are a joke, why are you so worried about this? Stick to the end and I'll tell you why. The biggest national consequence of Newsom's ouster, and the best reason for anyone, not just Democrats, to be opposed, is this. Recalling him would add to the dangerously anti-democratic drift in this country. Yes, because how dare regular Californians who are supremely dissatisfied with their state's governor want to oust him now for his corrupted incompetence? Like I said, this is a phenomenon you see only in the public sector. Can you imagine if Newsom did this shit of a job in the private sector? He'd have been ousted years ago. But no, if regular people dare exercise their displeasure, suddenly we've gone too far. Piss off. California's recall process, created in 1911, grew out of progressive populism, but it's being used in an era defined by a polarized politics that has one of the two major parties leaning towards authoritarianism and collectively following the first president to refuse to accept defeat. 2/3 of Republicans still deny that Biden was legitimately elected. Don't like the outcome of an election? Challenge it. Are you shitting me? You lemming-like idiots were screeching to the high heavens that Trump won. You were drafting impeachment proceedings before the man even set foot in office. You wasted $32 million of taxpayers' money, along with the golden moo-moo that is Hillary Clinton, thank you H.A. Goodman, that is pretty funny, traveling the country, saying it to anyone daft enough to listen to her whiny arrogance that it was Russia's fault. But if Republicans merely suggest something is off We're leaning towards authoritarianism? Which fucking states are mandating vaccines, pushing it on children, forcing toddlers to mask up, and wanting vaccine passports? Because it sure as hell aren't Republicans. These people are insane. They don't adhere to objective reality. They live in a different world. And so we get the January 6th insurrection, the ballot counting madness in Arizona, and copycat efforts in other states, and new laws in Republican-controlled states to empower partisan office holders to decide future elections. Yeah, right. Yeah, whereas the Democrat federalizing it is definitely not a power grab at all. But if you think inciting an insurrection, quote-unquote in my opinion, and extorting a foreign leader to find dirt on a political rival aren't impeachable offenses, answer this honestly. Would you think the same if the president were a Democrat? Remember when Obama spied on Trump's campaign and lefties didn't say jack shit? The insurrection narrative is just bollocks. It simply doesn't gel. You see Trump saying peacefully protest, literally, and then you see mainstream news saying peaceful protest in front of a building on fire in a Democrat city. Your cognitive dissonance has to be on the moon if you buy that BS. It's a sign of the sorry state of the Republican Party that the frontrunner is Larry Elder, a right-wing radio host and Trumpist, one who has denied climate change, opposes a minimum wage, and rejects any vaccine and mask mandates to counter COVID-19. Wait. Hold up. Earlier on in this very article, they said Republicans are leaning in towards authoritarianism. But here, you mentioned the Republican frontrunner, 4 examples of how he does not want government getting involved. But Republicans are authoritarian. Even in their own work, they contradict their own claims. But allow me to explain something. It's a bit subtle, but if you read about this from leftist rags, you will notice a recurring theme. Aside from the fact they don't ever mention why Newsom is actually being recalled, they might mention the French laundry scandal perhaps, but that's as far as it goes. They always paint this whole recall in a broader grand narrative of left versus right, and they do that because the liberal elite have no respect for progressives. To them, progressives are unthinking, useful idiots who are easy to manipulate, gullible morons who will vote for them no matter what as long as they mention Trump's name. It shows the absolute arrogance of the political elite. Never does it occur to any of them that it might be progressives who suffer from their policies, that it might be progressives who don't like Newsom, and quite a few might pull the lever to recall him, or simply say, nah, I don't like you, and you can't be worse than the Republican, especially not if an Obama Democrat is rooting for Elder. And that's all for today. Until next time.